His name can change.
All right. Hey, everybody. Philadelphia Stage Combat Workshop, our live stream. We are less than a week away from the workshop starting this Saturday. So if you have not signed up as a student yet, get on this. Get on this now. So if you have any questions after the live stream is over, you can always shoot us an email here at philatscw@gmail.com. A couple of, if you're excited and you're putting some posts up on Facebook, just to kind of help get the word out about the workshop, try and let's see if we can get some of these hashtags going. Got that? Or Phyllis. So the reason, for YouTube, the reason that we have Swordtober is the Social Distance Showdown. There was another virtual workshop that started October, and we're ending October. So October is kind of sandwiched with some awesome fight stuff this year. So for this live stream, we are lucky enough to get a chance to chat with one of our amazing guest instructors, Michelle Jiang, and her assistant Avi over here with Jingju Canada. We are so freaking excited to have you two joining us for the workshop this year. Yes, I love it. So we're getting a chance to just chat today and just get to know Michelle and Avi a little bit more. If you are tuning into this live stream, you can put comments down in the comment section below. We can answer these questions live. So throw a hi, throw a hello, throw a hi, how you doing? Let us know what you want to know about. To get us chatting, just get us started working a little bit, throwing the first question out there. For those who may not know, how would you describe Jingju or Beijing opera? I guess my first question, is there a difference? And this is coming from someone, I have no idea. I'm very vague familiarity. Is there a difference between Beijing opera and Peking opera?
No different. Just the name. Beijing is a Chinese Chinese called Peking. No, Beijing.
Peking and Beijing are basically
yes.
the same place. There is a slight difference between Chinese opera and Jingju or Peking opera, which is what we do.
Okay.
Chinese opera does encompass a certain wider variety of operas. Specifically, what we do, Jingju, is also known as Beijing opera, is also known as Peking opera, is also known as capital opera. Because they all refer to the same city, which is Beijing.
Makes sense. All right. So if you were talking to someone who had like absolutely no understanding of what this is, how would you describe Jingju or Beijing opera? And I'm gonna make your screen big so we can focus on what you're saying, okay?
Okay. What is Jingju opera? For someone who never saw, what is Jingju?
What is Jingju? Jingju is a fight like a dance, singing like opera, then movement so beautiful, just like 清早起来，莲花镜子照，梳一个油头桂花香，脸上擦的桃花粉，口点的胭脂杏花糊。Speak like this.
So I guess to tag on to that, the idea of it being called an opera is a bit of a misnomer. It's kind of what people in the West decided to call it when they first encountered it. But it's really kind of a theatrical art form that does a lot of things all together, including singing or including just talking in the way that judges did, but whose chief aim is beauty. So when Jazz talking about things like fighting like dancing, it's because the idea of realistic portrayal isn't a concern. In fact, it's thrown out the window 95% of the time. The idea is to show things as beautifully as we possibly can. So that's kind of what makes the fighting style in Jingju a little bit unique, because the idea isn't to have a realistic fight. It's to have a beautiful fight. And the ways that we do that kind of don't always make sense in a Western combat tradition, but they sure look cool. So
love it. All right. Yeah, like I've always been really intrigued. There's certain movement forms and certain art forms that, especially from like a Western perspective, like I've always been super intrigued by. Like in college, when I learned a little bit, just a little bit about No theater, I'm like, I'm dying to get a chance to see something like that. But especially like in New Jersey, United States, there's not exactly that many No practitioners in the States. So like I cannot wait to get a chance to travel more and be able to expand that horizon a little bit more. So even just like the little bit that I've heard about Beijing or Peking Opera or Jingju, I am so psyched to hear about. And Michelle, you actually sent us a demo video. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to share that here right now. Would you be okay with that?
Yes.
Cool. So for anybody watching, before I share it, just a reminder, if you have any questions, any comments, if anybody want to say hi, feel free to throw it in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. We can answer any questions live. We'll see how the video quality is, because I know when I was watching it on my computer, the subtitles were a little hard to see.
Yes.
But so we'll see kind of what they look like on this screen, but let's get this going. Let me share a screen.
Yes.
Sharing the audio. Why is this not showing up? All right, sharing my entire screen. That's fine. All right.
京剧形成于19世纪中叶的北京，至今已有近200年的历史。它集宫廷气韵之华贵，南北音韵之精华，中国传统美学之大成，以其最中国、最古典、最纯粹的精美与情味，成为雅俗共赏、以古遗今的民族艺术瑰宝，被誉为中国的国粹。以歌舞演故事，是中国戏曲艺术的典型特征。有声必歌、有动必舞的表演原则，将京剧舞台表演的华美与京剧演员的表演潜能推向了极致。唱、念、做、打和手、眼、身、法、步组成的4功5法，将人物丰富的内心情感通过夸张的表演体现出来。借助水袖、翎子、髯口、马鞭等服装与道具，自然生动地表现出在特定戏剧境界中的真情实感，创造出绚丽多彩的戏剧场面与生动鲜活的人物形象，达到在一切自然真实的情况下所难以达到的传神写意之佳境，带给观众视觉与听觉的极致享受。天空、海洋、山川、陆地，现实生活中的自然景观，通过演员的表演，可以瞬间被体现并放大在舞台之上。 而以虚代实、虚实相生的美学原则，则构成了中国京剧在精致与华美中又不失自由奔放的艺术特征。身随心动，景随身动，利用演员这一流动的布景，将看似简单的舞台装扮得流光溢彩，更体现了此处无声胜有声的韵味之美。动与静，快与慢，悲与喜，乐与怒，善与恶，美与丑，这些泾渭分明的元素在京剧的舞台上得到完美的和谐统一。作为中国古典艺术集大成者，京剧从内容选材到表现形态，呈现于舞台的方方面面，无一不体现出近乎极致的古典美感。京剧舞台上的人物主要分为生、旦、净、丑4大行当，每个行当之中又根据人物的年龄、身份而各有分支，不同的行当被赋予了不同的表演特点。作为京剧表演中极其重要的元素，京剧音乐主要由西皮和二黄2种基本腔调组成，京胡是乐队伴奏的主要乐器，而鼓师则相当于乐队的指挥。中国戏曲的脸谱长期以来被视作是一种视觉符号，通过不同的色彩和纹饰体现不同的人物。通过脸谱不但能够看出人物的年龄、性格，甚至能够看出人物的身份和命运。脸谱的色彩主要分为红、黄、蓝、白、黑、金等颜色。红色代表忠义，白色代表奸诈，黑色代表刚正等等，而金色则出现在神话人物的脸上。在京剧近200年的历史中，出现过很多中国最顶尖的艺术家。出生于1847年的谭鑫培，在当时被誉为灵界大王，是京剧承上启下的一位重要人物。梅兰芳是一个在世界范围都极具影响力的响亮名字，他将中国古老戏曲的歌、舞、剧有机结合，形成了梅派艺术独特风格，与斯坦尼斯拉夫斯基、布莱希特一起，成为世界3大戏剧表演体系的代表人物。时光流转，白驹过隙，古老的艺术成为留给今人宝贵的文化财富，令今天的我们仍然聆听并感动于这些昔日的艺术作品所传递的美感与力量。
好。
Cool.
Awesome.
Yay! That, like, I know when you first sent that to us and the first time I got a chance to fully watch that through, my jaw, the floor, done. I'm like, oh, we actually get to do, yes, yes. So I am so psyched that you are able to join us for this. So there's a lot of information that was in that video, and like, for example, names really bad in my head, but I know there was one practitioner that apparently worked a lot with Stanislavski and Bertolt Brecht. How did that come in? Like, what did they mean by, like, those 3 kind of figures really kind of help shape a lot of what is, like, am I making sense at all?
I think I know where you're going with it.
Yeah.
The person in question is Mei Lan Fang.
Okay.
probably the best known historically speaking, practitioner of Chinese opera. And his specialty was doing female roles. Because at the time, women weren't allowed on stage, so men were the ones playing the roles. And the thing that also set him apart a lot more than, some of his contemporaries or some of the other stars of Chinese opera is that he made it his mission to get it out of China.
Okay.
Ooh, okay. He specifically decided that he was going to travel to Russia, to Germany, to the United States, to all these big centers of theater, so that not only he could kind of spread the art form around, but also be exposed to all the other art forms that were out there in order to create some kind of exchange. And the thing that a lot of times he's mentioned along with Stanislavski and Bertolt Brecht, because they both, well, all three of them had this kind of through line in the types of theater that they did, where in some cases it was called like alienating the audience a little bit. And certainly for Chinese opera, like how I mentioned at the beginning, since it's all about beauty, realism isn't the goal. So if you're expecting to go in and see straightforward story, you're not really going to see that. But you're going to see a lot of beautiful movement and a lot of embellishment, a lot of all of this stuff. And so it's that idea of that concept taking priority over the things that are traditionally considered like the theater staples, like narration and like a story through line and all those kinds of things. Like a lot of times in Jingju, you can have a story that like Jia will send it to me by text message. Like it can be like a few lines long, but it's basically the story for a 1 hour show. So
interesting.
A 1 hour show is based off of like these like 3 or 4 lines she sends me. She's like, so this girl, and then she goes over here, and then the grandfather does this, and then this guy comes in and they do that. And I'm like, okay. And then we choreograph an hour show out of that. So that's kind of what I mean. That's kind of why they're always mentioned together, because they had this thing in common that even though the art forms themselves are completely different, like if you take Bertolt Brecht's style of theater and Jingju and do them side by side, at first you don't like, you're like, what? There's what's in common? But when you talk about the theory behind them, that's where they got along so well, and why they became like lifelong friends, and they were in touch with each other for decades to come after that tour that he did.
Very cool. You gotta love it when ideas come together, because there is so much that connects us more than divides us. That's so cool. Then that's a great example. That's wow. Cool. Oh. Kind of getting a little bit more on a personal question. So Michelle, you not only teach Jingju, but you've also studied and performed Jingju for quite a while. So like tell us a little bit about like how long have you been training in Jingju? And
I started in 1993.
Okay.
When I little, probably 8 old years old. Okay. Yes. Then study 6 years in the school. So you just stay in the school. You can't go home. You just stay in the school. Then 1 year, 2 times you can go home to see your family.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. The school is closed, so you just study and in the school 6 years after. Then when I graduate, then I got a job from my Heilongjiang province, Peking Opera like company, but this company belong to government, the China.
Got it.
Yeah. Then probably I performed 3 or 4 years. I want to study more, so I went to the Beijing. How do you say the NACTA?
The name of the school is, in English, it would be NACTA, N-A-C-T-A, and it's the National Academy of Chinese Theater Arts.
Yes.
So it's basically the National Institute for
Yeah.
Jingju.
I learned
Cool.
3 years perform, then 4 years director.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's the equivalent, in the West, it's the equivalent of doing her bachelor's as a performer and then doing a master's in directing.
Yes.
Nice. Cool. All right.
Yeah. Then in 2008, I have a chance with my Professor Liu come to Concordia, then teach them 3 months, right? 3 months.
Yeah, it was. They were supposed to come for a semester, but we had visa issues, so they only. By the time they got here, it turned into a 3-month intensive.
So I was assistant to help my teacher to teach them. Then after
You were me. I'm your assistant.
yeah. Then after that, in 2009, when I graduate from NACTA, then I came to here, Canada. Then teach probably from 2011, then teach Concordia the theater apartment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How many times?
Because basically she was a rotating part-time staffer.
Yeah.
Because the way that it works at Concordia, anyways, for their theater department, because it's not a huge theater department, so every 2 to 3 years they rotate in different classes, and so they put the Chinese opera studio in the rotation. So every couple of years she would be teaching it.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
And you still perform today, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have you and Avi there. You have a theater company that you perform through.
Yes.
Sorry, we're the survivors. The company started off with a lot more people, but we're the ones left. Which is not to say that others aren't involved. It's just when we initially created the company, it was when Ja came to Montreal, when she moved over, because there wasn't anywhere to do Jingju here. And a lot of us that had studied didn't want to kind of let it go because we had invested so much and we really enjoyed doing it. So as a group of actors, we got together and we basically informally created this company called Jingju Canada, which we then formalized later by registering it and everything. But as life does, people went to do masters in New York. Some people moved away. Some people's bodies just told them enough is enough because they didn't want to. They weren't. It would hurt too much after a while.
Yeah.
What we ended up, what the company sort of transitioned into, the longer that we did it, is that a lot of times people would just get directly in contact with either Ja or myself. So it kind of de facto became like us doing the company. And because of the way companies work in Quebec, we had to re-register it a couple of years ago. So the way we re-registered it basically is it's her company and I'm just kind of like the general manager. And the way that we operate is that we have kind of a whole network of freelance performers that we work with. So whenever we have a show that requires more than 2 people, which is anything that's not a lecture, really, we call on the people that we enjoy working with. And I mean, to be honest, a lot of times we'll write a show based off who we want to work with and who we know is free. So we'll be like, yeah, no, we want Fred. So what character is Fred gonna play? He's gonna play this, and then I go and I write it.
There you go.
I mean, we also, like, in some cases, that it doesn't work out that way. So we do hold auditions. And then just a couple of years ago, we basically inducted a new person into the Jingju family by giving them like 6 months crash course in Jingju so that they could be in one of our shows.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
But our Jinju very special is talking to English.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
way we do it is because Jingju Canada's mandate is kind of a separate thing. So the idea behind it is to teach and spread the art of Jingju as much as possible to Western audiences. And the way that we found, aside from actually teaching or doing lectures or guest spots or things like that, when we do shows, we do them in English. We don't do them in Chinese.
Yes.
So we translate. The way that it usually works is we translate directly what the show is. We see that it makes no sense in English, so then we workshop it for a while. Sometimes we add scenes to explain certain things that are kind of a given in Chinese culture, but aren't a given here. And it goes through like a series of adaptations and like little rewrites and things like that. But we're always going back kind of to the original to make sure that we're staying true to the art form. And so we perform in full costume, full makeup, all the traditional weapons and things like that. The only thing that we try to do is to switch the language around so that the people here can understand what's happening in the story. And they're not just watching something for the kind of visual pleasure of it. They can also understand what's going on.
Cool. Okay. You mentioned that there are certain things that you may need to kind of add a little bit more to because they would have been a given in Chinese culture, but not necessarily in Western culture. Is there an example that you can think of something in that vein? Like,
well, it's also, it has to do a lot with the nature of Chinese opera scripts. A lot of them are just generally based off canonical stories or things like that, like Journey to the West, or like, so it's like things like for here, like Cinderella, it's like I don't have to explain Cinderella to most people. Everybody knows it. So if I do like, an avant-garde adaptation of Cinderella, everybody kind of knows where the story is going.
right.
Whereas if I do a story here on like an episode of The Monkey King, not everybody knows who I'm talking about. So I sometimes have to add in like some background information, like this is who this person is, this is what they're known for, this, and so a lot of times we focus on comedy just because we find that that's a language that no matter what happens, people connect to it. So we found very interesting and creative ways to just like plug in little expository monologues over here and like a little bit of like, some random person walks in and says this and then gets beat up for no reason. So yeah, it's more in terms of background information, but also in terms of just kind of cultural awareness to create sort of a whole environment where it's not just the direct script with only the lines, and it's more the story that we're communicating.
Very cool. Okay. As a performer, Michelle, is there a character that you really like playing?
Be honest.
Because so from kind of a Western theater kid standpoint, a lot of it, like for example in the video that you sent us, it seems like there's a lot of similarities, like for example with commedia dell'arte, the Italian clown kind of art form. With that art form, there's already the understanding that there are kind of stereotypical kind of trope, or not trope, there's stock characters sometimes that you can just kind of build scenarios from, like the two lovers are trying to trick the evil father and do the thing. From what I can see, or the assumption that I'm making, is that it seems like there is a very similar kind of idea in Jingzhu. There seems to be, in certain cases, depending on the kind of story you're telling, in certain cases there seems to be stock characters that Jingzhu has. Am I correct on that?
Not you need to be the star characters. Some Jingzhu how do I say, the character is a really kind of like, you know, just a little girl or a little woman, but in the Jingju can make her or he to be the famous. So
because the way that it works with Jingju is it's not so much, there's not stock characters, but there are character types. So there are like 4 different character types for men and like 5 different character types for men and 4 for women. And so for stock characters, it just changed a little bit because a lot of them are, like, for example, for all the historical plays, the characters are based on real people. So it's not so much, it's like this person is going to be this character type, but they're going to be playing this character, this specific
historical person. Yeah.
So like in the example Jazz using is you can have a category of character like the young woman, but the young woman can still be the protagonist of the entire play, for example. It doesn't have to be like the fighting general or whatever. So, and actually that's something that we plan to talk about more in the first class we're going to be giving, just to give an overview of like, this is how things break down, and this is who this is, and this is who this is, with a focus obviously more on the fighting and the people who do more of the fighting. But yeah, definitely Commedia dell'arte is a really big link for us, and I have to be careful sometimes because when I'm rewriting scenes, I get very close to just like full on doing Lazzis from Commedia. I'm just like, and then this guy does this, and then this guy walks behind him, but he doesn't see him, so he doesn't. So it's like it's very like it's very kind of like that circular like Benny Hill kind of idea, which works for certain characters, for certain character types in Chinese opera, namely the clowns. But yeah, I think, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. So kind of having that understanding in mind, Michelle, back to that other question, is there a character that you've played that you probably had, like, you liked the most or you had the most fun with?
Monkey King.
Oh,
yeah.
She's saying that because okay. The other thing in Canada that ends up being funny is because of the scarcity of performers we have. In modern Jingju, you don't have so much the trope of men playing women and women playing men because both can train and both can perform now. So you know, you have female and male performers. It's not an issue. Due to a comedic set of circumstances that actually happened in real life, I ended up being trained as a princess for a while without knowing it. So when we came back to Canada, we had a scene that I was specialized in where I would fight a Monkey King, and we had 2 different actors with us that played the Monkey King. But as things happened, one went to New York to do a master's, and one moved to Vancouver, and almost immediately after they were both gone, we were hired to do that scene. So Ja, who never played the Monkey King before, but obviously is a prodigy when it comes to anything, was like, I'll do it. And I was like, okay. So we went into a scene, because technically I'm also trained to do the Monkey King, but I've been playing Princess for so long at that point that it made more sense for me to keep doing the Princess. So it turned into this thing where the guy was playing the princess and the girl was playing the Monkey King, and it inadvertently became a specialty of ours because with all the makeup, with everything, with all the costumes, people didn't know until the presenters would invariably make a joke about it, as everybody would, and then like, you know, Chinese newspapers would ask us like, but you're playing a woman and you're playing a boy. And she couldn't get enough of it. For her, it was like the funniest thing in the world. And I was just kind of like, yeah, I'm playing a girl, so what?
Exactly. Yeah. It's 2020.
Like, I'm playing a boy. Yeah. But the reality is that she is very well known for, and probably too humble about one of her specialties, which is white snake, which is one of the hardest roles to learn. But that was what she was specialized in when she graduated from essentially like what was high school. She was performing with her troops, and she actually appeared on national Chinese television as that character, and she has a skill set with it that unfortunately we underutilize here because it requires basically an army of people attacking her, but that army of people have to know how to attack her properly for her to display everything that she can do. So unfortunately, she doesn't get to show all her amazingness, but she is really, really awesome as White Snake. If I can pry a video of it out of her one day, I'll send it to you.
Ooh, yes, please. Yep. Cool. So let's get away a little bit from the poking at personal stuff for a little bit. And let's get back to a bit of specifically the workshop. So you're going to be teaching 3 classes with us, all focused on Jingju in various ways. So let's chat a little bit about those classes so that like folks who may be on the fence about signing up as a student, they kind of have a little bit better idea of what are they signing up for. So let's go. I have your class list here. The first class you've got right at the top of the day, Jingju Introduction and Basic Training. So what's a little bit, just kind of little teaser about what that class is going to be like. She's like, all right, buckle in. Let's do this.
You want? Okay, fine. So
basic training.
That class, basically what we're going to be doing is we're doing a hybrid of both a university lecture that we do and what we do when we start off training new students. So being early in the morning, we understand, and we hope our students will understand that coffee will be had, hopefully by all, definitely by me. And we're going to be going just quickly through some of the generalities of Jingju and some of the specifics, and so that you have a better kind of understanding of why it is that that we would train the way that we do. Again, like I was saying, kind of the overriding guiding principle is beauty. So something might not look like it makes sense, like ergonomically, or like it's like, why am I going to kick this way, or why am I going to move this way? And it's like, because it looks good. It's not functional, but it looks good. So that's why we're doing it. And then it's only an hour, so we're gonna, as much as possible, we're gonna try to get through the theory of it, and then hopefully be able to demonstrate a few things for the students as well. If there's time, hopefully some interactive part will also be included, but that's really more what the other classes are for.
Cool. So the second class on the list, and I'm also trying to make sure I keep track of time because I know y'all don't necessarily, you have to be out of that space by 6. Just kind of keeping an eye on time. It's about 5:47 right now.
I don't think we'll get kicked out, so it's not a huge thing. But if anything, we have our phones. We can keep on chatting.
I love it. So the second class that you're going to be teaching, or at least that's on our list, is where do I have it? Jingju Swords versus Spear, specifically focusing on the spear technique. Now, I guess first question going into that. Do people who sign up for that class, are they required to have taken the one before?
No.
Okay. So no. What would be that class?
You want to talk about it? Okay, she wants to play with them, so there we go. Basically, what we're going to be doing is, since we're doing a limited, like it's a weekend thing. It's not a long semester type of thing. Right. We chose to focus on one kind of fight that we do a lot, which is a double sword versus spear. So on one of the classes, we're going to be focusing more on how the spear fights, and on the other class, we're going to be focusing on the sword. Okay, she's just gonna. So some of the training for the first class is going to be the stuff that Jazz is doing right now, which is kind of like solo spear work, just so that you get a sense of how to handle a spear in Chinese opera, which is very different from Western handling. Namely, I think, as someone from the West, one of the biggest difference, like from this to, let's say, a quarterstaff, is the weight. This guy is really, really light, right?
Yes.
Like, she's basically handling it with 2 fingers right now. It's a very almost hollow kind of bamboo. Obviously, we know people at home aren't going to have something like this. I recommend, if you just want to get a hang of things, to get like a broomstick at the dollar store or something like that. Something not too heavy and that's pretty light and ideally hollow. Next to you, just so that you see how big. Ideally, you want something that's the same height as you. And if you can find something that's flexible, that has that bounces like that, that would be perfect. But obviously, we know that's not the case for 95% of people, especially like if you're just going out to buy a broomstick, it's going to be like a piece of wood or a piece of plastic. So a lot of the skills we're going to be focusing on aren't going to rely on the flexibility. They're going to rely a lot more on the handling, on the actual like wrist movements and hand holding and all that kind of stuff. So the stuff she's been doing so far is the solo spear work. And then from there, we're going to start introducing choreography, which is going to be the beginning of the choreography of a sword versus spear fight. Which will then be mirrored with the third class we're doing, which is going to be working with the double swords. And again, we're going to be doing a lot of the technique for the double swords and working on how to hold them, how to work with them, how to move with them, and then going into choreography so that people can get a sense of how they're going to be used in an actual fight setting. Because we tend, when it comes to an introduction class like this, we like to give people a sense of, yeah, it's very beautiful, the movement and everything, but there is a certain level of functionality, and this is how it functions in a choreography. Do you want to keep showing something?
So, since Michelle, since you already have the sword there, why don't you tell us a little bit about the third class? Because the third class is specifically Jingshu Sword and Spear, specifically focusing on the double sword side of things.
Oh, double sword.
Sorry. What? So I'm not wearing the right pants for this. I apologize. So those would be double swords. This is a small steer.
Made by the bamboo.
Yeah, so even the swords in this case, they're made from a kind of wood which is kind of a bamboo wood. So it has a rigidity to it, but it also has a really good sound to it. Like when it hits, you get that satisfying kind of clang. The swords also are pretty flexible, but not as flexible, let's say, as the spears. And if people at home wanted to come up with an alternative for these, if they don't have a similar kind of sword, a broomstick cut in two, a branch. I don't know, what else could people use?
Just stuff.
There, I know for me, I've gone to say a hardware store. You can get a couple of wooden dowels that are about that long. You can cut to different sizes.
Like a PVC pipe, if it has the same kind of lightness and hollowness to it. So especially for the swords, the sort of more important thing is to just make sure that you have a hilt and that the length is somewhat similar. You're talking about a meter
Yeah.
here. It's not that long.
Okay, very cool.
Something that's going to mimic the size of them, because even for us, these are the swords we're going to be using for the workshop. But we do this fight also with a number of different swords. Some of them are much thinner, some of them are longer, some of them are bigger. So even that can change depending on the character who's using the swords. But really, as long as you have a stick-like object about that length, it should be fine.
Right. Yeah, we're working in the time of COVID. You got to work with what you got, right? Yep. So cool. I will disappear my screen so your screen goes big, because thank you both. I was not quite expecting a little bit of a demonstration that like you're doing. So I'm just like, oh, y'all are being amazing and generous, and thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We can do the action. So this would be the first, like, I don't know, 4 weeks of the fight-ish. We might be doing a little bit more, or might be doing a little bit less than what we'll actually do in the workshop. Yeah. So that's kind of, we would be doing maybe about half of that as the choreography part of each class. So in the spear part, obviously doing more what I was doing, and in the sword part, doing more what she was doing. And the advantage too of kind of having the both of us there is we're also going to be showing the male and female variations of the movements.
Cool.
People can get a sense of that, because for the spear, they don't change that much, but for the sword, they do, predominantly with things like stands and things like that.
Very cool. All right. So yeah, I know I want to wrap up just a little bit because we're kind of getting close to time for y'all. Is there a little bit of like, what are you two doing during COVID times, the times of COVID? Like, do you have any projects on the horizon? Because I know different countries, different places are kind of operating in different ways depending on what COVID restrictions are. I know in our tech call earlier, you were talking a little bit about what some of the restrictions are in Montreal and kind of how that's restricting things. So what kind of stuff are y'all up to right now during living in the time of COVID?
You see, I'm fat right now.
I feel that in my soul. Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we definitely have worked with the COVID wave quite a bit. It was actually really, it was a bit of like a knife in the side earlier this month or late last month, I think. Because the space that we're in is, I'm fortunate enough to be part of an organization that was allowed to stay open while Quebec was still in yellow zone, because Quebec functions by color. And so we were able, since we knew that we weren't going to be doing any shows in the near future, we've been having meetings and things like that, like at Starbucks or just over coffee, because it's a lot of computer work. It's a lot of admin kind of things, like trying to keep in touch with people, trying to work on the paperwork or aspect as much as we could. And then I was able to get a space here, and we had a rehearsal, just a training rehearsal for 2 hours with one of our collaborators to do actually to work on some of the skills that she uses as Whitesnake. Because he's he's a super talented guy. He does a lot of different kinds of martial arts. So he's able to pick up a lot of what we do really quickly.
Yes.
And then 2 days after that, we had planned to make it a weekly thing. And 2 days after that rehearsal, Quebec went to red. So we were no longer allowed to be 3 people in a room. And we were pretty sure this place was going to close down. They managed to stay open, thankfully. So we're still allowed to be 2 people together. And Jan and I are in each other's bubble, which is why we're not wearing masks. But as soon as we walk out, we are putting them on. So if you're out there, please, so that we don't stay in red.
Please. Saying that across the U.S. as well, please.
I mean, it doesn't have to be a medical one. You can make it fashion. You can do whatever you want. Like, get a white one and draw all over it. I mean, for a while, we wanted to do like Jingju Canada branded masks. Might as well. I think, are we about to get a Terry fashion show?
Whoa!
Baby order!
Yeah, the moment I saw this in the Disney store, I was like, yes, please.
What animal is this?
That's Baby Yoda.
From The Mandalorian, yeah.
The baby.
Okay.
With the little
so
cake.
cute. Oh my god.
I was like, no, I need. It's great.
So unfortunately, like our renewed like training schedule that we were so hyped up about kind of got cut down. But we're still like, at the same time, we're fortunate that we're in each other's bubble and that we're allowed to still have a space that lets 2 people indoors together. Because even our Starbucks meetings we had to cancel because we can't even go to Starbucks anymore. We're not even allowed sitting there. We're allowed to do that, but that's it. So we'll meet like in a car and we'll talk. We'll do our company meetings there, or when we can get a space like this, we meet and we rehearse as much as we can, and then go home and commiserate over what we're eating.
I feel that. Oof. Yeah, like so many theater companies and people have had to kind of modify or adjust or like find different ways to make art, because especially in a time where like we need some sort of some sort of creative outlet, something like when quarantine first started, a lot of people, what did they immediately go to? Netflix. They go to the arts because like we need it as
the student. They come to my home. We training backyard. So also we need a stay space. No. Yeah. So we training there. Also, I teach some student in Zoom. So teach them singing. We can't do movement too much. Just sing.
Yeah, you gotta do what you can.
That was a question we got a lot, actually, when we were telling people we're doing a workshop this weekend. They're like, how are you doing a workshop? It's like, it's with people in Philadelphia. They're like, you're going to Philadelphia? It's like, no, we're going on Zoom. We're going to do Chinese opera on Zoom. Some of our former students were like, how in the world are you going to do that? And we're like, we're figuring it out. It's going to happen.
Exactly. Like
across the USA, and it's going to work.
Love it. Let's do it. Yes. Like the amount of stage combat teachers here in the States that like they've tried to find so many different creative ways to make this work, because so many colleges have shifted to 100% online. Like I know my college, we shifted to 100% online. So every Friday I'm teaching a stage combat class through Zoom. It's like, so how do you do that? How do you what do you focus on? So I know for me, I'm focusing a lot more on concepts and kind of each opposite sides of things, as opposed to putting things together because we can't partner. But you focus on what you can as you can. So, and you find creative ways to do it. So
one of the reasons Ja picked this particular fight, because the way that she describes the fighting it's a lot like a dance. So really we're teaching you like, these are the steps for this side of the dance, and these are the steps for your partner. So
love it.
You don't have to, like, especially in this kind of fight, you don't have to be making contact with the weapons. It's important for you to be fully in control of your movements and fully like knowing where it is that you're going and where the intention of the movement is going. So on your own, you should be able to train this just by yourself. And if you do it in a show, you'd be expected to. So that's kind of like, we're teaching this part, just until you can meet up with someone and put it together with them. But up until then,
Exactly.
you're on your side so that when it comes to being on stage, you got what it takes.
Yep, you know your moves. Yep, love it. So I think that's our time. Thank you two so much for getting a chance to chat with us today. And that was freaking exciting to like the fact that we got a chance to see a bit of a demo. So folks, if you are watching the recording of this live stream later, I hope you take a look at everything that Michelle and Avi have been able to present to us. If you love what you got a chance to see and you want to learn more, register as a student. Make sure you get your butt to this workshop. It is over Zoom. If schedule is a problem, we're recording all of the classes. So as long as you register as a student, you will be able to have access to those recordings for about a month after. We also have, essentially, you can pay per class, like a la carte. You can pay for like 1 or 2 classes through the weekend based on what your schedule is. If money completely is a thing, we have the Pay It Forward scholarship. You can put your name on the wait list, and as other folks who feel a bit more comfortable and are a bit more secure in money, because we're all struggling right now. Money is a very hard thing for so many of us right now. For those who feel a little bit more comfortable with money as they've registered, they can throw an extra $5 or an extra $10 to the scholarship, which will go towards the training for somebody else. And we've been able to admit at least 5 or 6 different people in that way. So if money is a question mark, at least put your name on the wait list. You never know, you could get in. So there's lots of different options to be able to register. And what better way to, one, spend Halloween weekend when you're stuck in quarantine, but also 2, this is a perfect time to add new skills to your tool list, to your toolbox, and learn something new. Expand your mind. So hopefully you get a chance to sign up as a student. If you have questions at any point in time, feel free to shoot us an email. Let us know what you need, and we can answer any questions at any point in time. As you're posting about these workshops and you're getting excited, throw some of these hashtags up there. Once again, Michelle, Avi, thank you so much for joining us and getting a chance to chat with us today. It was so good getting a chance to meet you both.
For October, we should totally be like Instagramming this. So yeah.
Yes, get that hashtag going. So, alrighty. So once again, thank you folks for tuning in. Hopefully we'll see you this weekend at the workshop. And until then, we will catch y'all later. All right?